Download this code and get free GPT-4o from codegive.com, link in the description below. Kubernetes is a powerful container orchestration platform, but managing and troubleshooting Kubernetes clusters can be challenging. Komodor is a tool designed to simplify the troubleshooting process for Kubernetes by providing a visual overview of your cluster's resources, events, and changes. This tutorial will guide you through some common troubleshooting techniques in Kubernetes and how you can leverage Komodor for effective management. Prerequisites. 1. Kubernetes cluster. You should have access to a running Kubernetes cluster. 2. Kubectl. Install the Kubernetes command line tool, kubectl, to interact with your cluster. 3. Komodor account. Sign up for Komodor and set it up to connect to your Kubernetes cluster. Step 1. Setting up Komodor. Once sign up, go to the Komodor website, https://komodor.com, and sign up for an account. 2. Connect your cluster. Follow the instructions provided by Komodor to connect your Kubernetes cluster. This typically involves installing a Komodor agent in your cluster. Bash. Kubectl apply https://path/to/komodor-agent.yaml. 3. Verify installation. Check the installation status of the Komodor agent. Bash. Kubectl get pods and Komodor. Step 2. Basic troubleshooting commands with kubectl. Before diving into Komodor, familiarize yourself with some basic kubectl commands that will help you identify issues. 1. Check pod status. Bash. Kubectl get pods and namespace. 2. Describe a pod. This will provide detailed information about the pod, including events. Bash. Kubectl describe pod name and namespace. 3. View logs. Bash. Kubectl logs pod name and namespace. 4. Check events. Bash. Kubectl get events and namespace. Step 3, using Komodor for troubleshooting. Once you have Komodor set up, you can use it for a more intuitive troubleshooting experience. 1. Access the dashboard. Log into Komodor and navigate to the dashboard. Here you will see an overview of your clusters, including the health of namespaces, deployments, and pods. 2. Identify issues. Komodor provides a clear visual representation of the state of your resources. If there is a problem with a specific pod or deployment, it will be highlighted. 3. Explore the history. One of the key features of Komodor is its ability to show the history of changes and incidents. You can click on a pod or deployment to view its history, including deployments, rollbacks, and configuration changes. 4. View resource details. Click on a problematic pod to view its details, including logs, events, and metrics. This information is aggregated in a user-friendly interface. Example scenario, troubleshooting a failing pod. Imagine you have a pod that keeps crashing. Here's how to troubleshoot it with both kubectl and Komodor. Step 1, use kubectl. 1. Get pod status. Bash. Kubectl get pods and my namespace. 2. Describe the pod. Bash. Kubectl describe pod mypod and my namespace. 3. Check logs. Bash. Kubectl logs mypod and my namespace. Step 2, use Komodor. 1. Navigate to the pod, go to the Komodor dashboard and find the pod in question. 2. Inspect the timeline, check the timeline for recent events that may have caused the failure. 3. View logs, access the logs from the Komodor interface instead of using kubectl. Step 4, Common troubleshooting tips. Check resource limits, ensure your pods have appropriate resource requests and limits set. If a pod is getting killed, it may need more memory. Example: YAML API version v1. Kind pod. Metadata: name my pod. Spec: containers. Name my container. Image my image. Resources: requests. Memory 64 miles. CPU 250 M. Limits: memory 128 miles. CPU 500 M. Networking issues: verify that your services are correctly configured and that network policies are not restricting access. Deployment rollbacks: if a deployment is failing after a recent change, consider rolling back to a previous version. Conclusion. Troubleshooting Kubernetes can be complex, but tools like komodor make it easier to visualize and manage your resources. By combining kubectl commands with komodor's intuitive interface, you can quickly identify and resolve issues in your Kubernetes clusters. Remember to keep your documentation handy and to follow best practices when deploying and managing your Kubernetes applications.